what that aroma can do. Brighter day for me and you. The best part of waking up.
The best part of waking up is having a job. And that is exactly what the hardworking men and women at J.M. Smucker Co. who bring you Folgers coffee won't have if they don't get the jab. Hey Smuckers, consumers are now boycotting your 40 brands. Call 1-888-550-9555 and tell them everyone should have the freedom of choice.
Everyone, please rise or put your hand over your heart at the very least for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I very much appreciate that. Now, on with the show.
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the grass is green, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Multiverse broadcasting system initiated.
Lasers.
Multiverse connection established.
Hello.
Multiverse connection secure.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Oz.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live across the multiverse from a secret cave hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right, we're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, October the 27th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to carry on our State of Mystery tour as we move on into the great state of Maine, another state that is surprisingly packed with the paranormal. And we're going to dig into all that and more here in just a moment. But first, let's see who we've got joining us tonight in our YouTube chat rooms. Welcome, everyone. It is great to see every last one of you guys here. It's been one heck of a day today. We had the IMEC thing earlier, the open tables with Mr. Tom Campbell. If you have not checked that out after the show, definitely go back and check that out. It was an amazing conversation between all of ourselves at IMEC and Mr. Tom. I very much enjoyed it, and I hope you guys do too. But over here in the chat rooms tonight, we got Earl Taylor. Glad to see you, Earl. Says, howdy, folks. Howdy, Earl. Sandy B popping in. Hey, y'all. AJ, did you catch this afternoon with Tom? Jerry did an awesome job. Cynthia, too. Well, thank you, Sandy. We appreciate that. This is, of course, in the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat room, our network radio YouTube channel over there. Terry Taggart says, George News was canceled earlier. We do apologize for the late start. We had some unforeseen circumstances after the show and had to take care of some things, but we made it back in time to get things back on the road, right? Just a small delay. My Life DIY popping into the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat room. Glad to see My Life over there. Says, hello, My Life. Raider Champion popping in says, I'm here. I'm glad to have you here, buddy. Catherine M stopping by says, hi, all. Hi, Catherine. We're glad to have all of you guys hanging out with us tonight. Glad you were able to fix your schedules a little bit to be here. Michael Fontaine in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room. I must stop right here and wish Parker a happy 6th birthday. Congratulations. It is absolutely amazing to hear. For you those that don't know, Michael always has a birthday or some type of celebration going on. One of the most celebratory men I know, right? But happy birthday, Parker. 6 years old from us here at the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show. Glad to have all of you guys on board. JoJo's stopping in to the Dark Wolf's Den Show, letting everybody know that we would be starting late. Raider Champion hanging in there. Preliminal, glad to see you, Preliminal. He was also with us over in the IMEC show earlier. Earth Daughter, great to see you. Said, I listened to IMEC today while working. That was probably my favorite episode so far. What an awesome interview. Well, thank you. It seems like people actually enjoyed that quite a bit. Michael Fontaine, home of Stephen King. That it very much is. JJ says, hey, JJ. Says, hey, Jerry. Hey, everyone. Glad to see you guys. All of you guys here. It is an absolute pleasure to see every last one of you. And of course, if you're not on YouTube and happen to be listening to us worldwide on Ripon Rabbit Hole Radio, we sincerely appreciate every last one of you guys too, and we're glad to have you along for the ride. And speaking of the ride, we're going to ride on up to Maine tonight for our paranormal State of Mystery, but before we do, we have two more fun little segments to do. The first of which we call Today in History. On this day in 312 AD, Roman Emperor Constantine the Great is said to have received his famous vision of the cross in the sky right before a battle which he went on to win. That happened on this day in 312 AD, and that is today's segment of Today in History. And there are those that claim the vision of the cross that he's seen was actually seeing a UFO. Anyway, that's the rumor. But that brings us to our next segment before we dig deep into the paranormal. A segment which we call Say What? Our quote of the day today comes from the Buddha. He says, what we think, we become. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. End quote. Once again, that was from the Buddha. And that is today's segment of Say What? And that is so very true that we do create our own reality, at least in my opinion, right? And speaking of creating, bonus fact, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen King created a lot of novels in his time, as we know, and he based every one of those novels out of Maine. Perhaps he knew of the mysterious paranormal surrounding all of the state of Maine. And one of those paranormal things that you will find in Maine, well, a series of paranormal things you will find in Maine, are the cryptid creatures. And Maine is quite special when it comes to cryptids.
Maine has a lot of interesting cryptids that we can talk about, and a few of them are quite unique to the area. I think our first stop in this travel should be a creature known as a spectral moose.
I'm sorry, a spectral what, Ben?
A spectral moose.
Man, when you said they had some unique cryptids, you weren't kidding, were you? Tell us about this spectral moose, Ben.
This being has been seen since 1891 up until recently. It is described as being 14 to 15 feet tall, weighs around 2,500 pounds, has 22-point antlers that are 10 to 12 feet wide, brown eyes, and white fur that is said to give off a faint glow.
Don't really sound like a terrifying cryptid, right? But at least it glows. You could see it coming quite easily, right?
This creature has been said to have been able to vanish without notice, and it can even pass through solid objects. Many hunters have seen this animal through the years, and quite a few of them have even fired upon the beast. Although, true to its name, none of those bullets seem to have any effect on the creature, other than to anger it.
See, I'm kind of torn on this one now between calling it a cryptid and just a ghost creature, right? What about you guys? What do you think? Do you think this is a true cryptid creature, or do you think this is more of a ghostly, spectral haunting taking the form of a moose? What do you guys think? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think this is absolutely just another cryptid creature. Put a 2 in the chat room if you think, nope, this is completely miscategorized. This is a spirit or ghost form of some type. And put a 3 in the chat room if you're not quite sure how you would categorize this one.
The first sighting was by a man named Clarence Duffy, who worked as a guide around Lobster Lake. Shortly after this, a lumberjack named John Ross also saw the creature. Then in 1892, a New York hunter named Howard Van Ness was looking for game around the Norcross area when he encountered this being. Van Ness pulled up his gun and fired many shots at the moose, but each one seemed to miss. The beast immediately turned and charged the hunter, but gave up after the man hid in a mass of tree roots. In 1899, a man named Gilman Brown saw the moose near Roach River, and he fired his gun as well. This time the beast simply stared at him for a while and slowly walked away.
Utterly confused at that, no doubt.
In 1906, a man named George Nealand was riding his bicycle between Sherman and Macwahock when he noticed a large white animal that he at first thought was a big horse. When he got off his bike to get a better look, the moose came charging at him, and he only managed to escape by climbing a nearby tree.
I honestly doubt that the moose could have actually caused any damage, as since physical objects like bullets go through it, it would probably just run right through a person like any other spirit, right?
One odd story claims that a few hunters managed to kill a white moose, and they slit its throat and hung it up for the night. The next morning, they awoke to find the body gone without a trace.
Now, let's be honest, this is the Maine wilderness, so I would not put it past something to have eaten that same hanging corpse. So I don't know if I would 100% say that it's absolutely the creature had got away or come back to life in this particular instance, right? But this is a strange cryptid anyway. One of the weirdest case files I think I've run across in a long time. I don't know about ever, but definitely one of them in a long time.
Later that night, the men witnessed the same moose, still with a slit throat, running through their camp. They fired on the creature again, but it didn't seem to have any effect. It was later spotted again near the Ashford area, and didn't seem to have anything wrong with it.
So either it was a resurrected white moose, which, as strange as that sounds, the stuff we've heard on this show before, that is not out of the realm, right? Or perhaps it is a set of these creatures, more than one, a community is the word I'm looking for here tonight, a community of these creatures that exist, and maybe not just the one. Maybe that's why people continue to see them. Perhaps we have a whole family of white moose running around somewhere in Maine. But what do you guys think? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think this is just a group of white moose that science just hasn't found, a family of them that they just have discounted for whatever reason. Put a 2 in the chat room if you think this is a cryptid creature. A 3 in the chat room if you think this is a spirit of some type or a spirit creature of some type. And put a 4 in the chat room if you're just not sure about this wild story. And while we're getting to that, let's go ahead and see what you guys said about the first one here. 3 drunk hunters, says Raider Champion. You know what? Not out of the question, right? Maybe they're all getting drunk in Maine, going hunting and seeing the white moose. Terry Taggart with a 3. Sandy B with a 3, says 3, I think. Over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show, Michael Fontaine with the 2. It could most likely be a ghost or a specter, not a real cryptid creature. Earth Daughter with the 3 on the fence over there. Pinga Spetsons with the 2. And I forgot to say hello earlier to Scarecrow over in the Dark Wolf's Den chat. Scarecrow Strawman, also glad to have you along too. But of course, we cannot talk cryptids without talking about our favorite cryptid that we've followed across pretty much every state so far.
Normally, Bigfoot-type cryptids don't find themselves outside the honorable mentions section, but there are 2 unique Sasquatch-like beings that are said to roam about the land.
And if anywhere that I would expect to see a Bigfoot Sasquatch type creature, it would be an area like Maine or like Idaho, in that northern forested area, that wilderness that is so frozen most of the time that you would have these type of creatures, right? At least that's my opinion. But Maine is like one of those states that it would almost be out of place if it didn't have a Bigfoot, right?
Maine has a lot of creatures only found in the lumberjack tales, and most of them are quite outlandish. However, there is one known as the agripelter that may harbor some truth within the outlandish tales. It is described as looking like a monkey that has long, slender arms and makes its home in hollowed-out trees. The creature is said to snap dead branches off and hurl them at unsuspecting victims down below. The damage is said to range from a large welt to even death. These beings are said to have a diet of owls and woodpeckers, but due to the scarcity of both, they tend not to reproduce very often. Now, it is worth noting that many people who have encountered Sasquatch or creatures akin to this claim that they are known to throw objects such as trees and rocks. It is possible that the agripelter is actually a version of Sasquatch, a young one, or is it simply just a made-up tale to explain trees mysteriously falling on lumberjacks?
We definitely know that Bigfoot is known for getting rocks and boulders and throwing them and having aggressive tendencies at some times, large trees, things like that. So we know from previous Bigfoot stories that we have this type of activity amongst them. So I would not doubt if this was a real Bigfoot of some type, or a variation thereof anyway. But let's go ahead and see what you guys said on the spirit moose, the wild white moose of Maine. Let's see what you guys said over here in the chat rooms real quick. And we've actually got quite a mixed bag once again on this question. Terry Taggart with the 4, again with the I don't know, not quite sure at all. Sandy B with the 4. We have White Deer at Argonne Lab here. Argonne Lab's got a lot of strange, crazy near it, doesn't it? Over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, we got a 2 from JJ. Got a 2.34 from Earth Daughter. So kind of a mixed bag on that one, right guys? And you remember a moment ago we were speaking of different Bigfoot creatures, and Ben mentioned that there were 2 types of Bigfoot. We went over the first one. Let's hear about the second Bigfoot creature of Maine. What do you got, Ben?
The next being in this category of strange Bigfoot types is known as the Kawakwa. This being is very closely related to the Wendigo, and as such could be considered a spirit, but these creatures are said to be very much living. The name Kawakwa means walks about the woods, and is found in the Penobscot tribe lore. This being is also known to other tribes by different names, with the Mi'kmaq calling it Chinu, and the Passamaquoddy calling it Apotamkin. Regardless of its name, these creatures are giant beings that look very human-like, but are cannibalistic and are said to contain a heart made of ice. They will disguise themselves by rubbing pine tar on their bodies and roll around on the forest floor. As such, they are said to resemble a tree if they stand very still.
Which is actually an incredibly logical thing to do, as we've seen different Bigfoots have a higher intelligence than most cryptid creatures, right? Closer to a human-style intelligence. So this type of activity, and I think I have heard other stories before of Bigfoots rolling in this tree tar and tree sap and using it to their advantage, as a creature of that type of consciousness living in the woods would, of course, have to do for survival purposes. So again, this is interestingly smart move for the creature. Maybe that could also be why we get reports every great now and again of moving trees, right? Perhaps it's these Bigfoot type creatures.
They can be both male or female, with the female version being more powerful and violent than their counterparts. Either way, both versions will eat humans and each other readily. Now, it is claimed that much like the Wendigo, they begin life as a normal human, but after passing away due to starvation, they will return as this creature.
Now, as Wendigo lore goes, that is a first for me. I have never heard of the Wendigo returning after death to a creature like this. How about you guys? Anybody in the chat room, have you heard of a creature, like a Wendigo type creature, Bigfoot, maybe Wendigo, returning from the dead like this into a different type creature? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you've heard of that before. 2 in the chat room if that's new to you, and yeah, it's just a 1 or 2 at this point.
It is said the only way to kill one is to make it eat salt or to chop one apart into many pieces. Some tales claim that they can be handled less violently by giving them a special concoction that will revert them back to their human form.
These sound almost more like vampire stories than Bigfoot stories. And how fitting for the season of October, this close to Halloween, right? That Maine would have these very Halloween-themed cryptids, interestingly enough. Ben Miller, the person we're listening to, if you guys don't know, definitely go check out that channel. He does a wide variety of cryptid work, and we've showcased his work on this channel in his audio bites more than once. So if you're wondering who this is we are always listening to, that is Ben Miller. And let's see what you guys said about this creature here. Remember, it was a 1 in the chat room if you have heard of the Wendigo coming back as this different Bigfoot type creature. 2 in the chat room if that was new to you. Let's see what you guys have said over here. And just as I would have expected, most of you said 2 from Terry Taggart, S from Sandy B. I'm not sure if that was a backwards 2 or what she quite meant by that, but I'll take it. Over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat, Earth Daughter with the 2, definitely has not heard of that before. Michael Fontaine 2, Pet Cemetery. Over in the AJ Ripon Rabbit Hole chat, Raider Champion also mentioned the Pet Cemetery 2. Earth Daughter, totally Pet Cemetery. JoJo's, to become a Wendigo, a person eats people when starving. That's when they die and become Wendigo. So even herself has not heard of a Wendigo dying again and becoming yet another creature. That's very new on me too. Pinga Spetsons with the 2 definitely has not heard of that. And Sandy B going from the S, flipping it around to the 2 also. Yeah, this was also quite very new on me too. And Bigfoots don't seem to be the only intelligent humanoid type cryptid creatures in Maine. Apparently, Maine doesn't have the lizard-style creatures. They've got full-grown humanoid cryptids running around up there. Ben, what do you got up next on the list, my friend?
The first would be the Goat Man from Cherryfield.
And if you have been following the State series this whole time, you'll know that goat men have shown up once or twice before in different states, right?
According to this story, in the 1950s, an avid hunter was driving his truck down a back road on his way home. Suddenly the vehicle stopped moving and he realized the gas gauge indicated that he was out of fuel. What was odd was that he had just filled up before heading down the road. The man left his truck and checked to see if he had a gas leak, but found nothing was wrong. As he stood up, he was shocked to see a strange being standing on the road before him. It was described as being half man, half goat, with the lower half having goat legs and the upper half was covered in a red flannel shirt. The head had 2 horns and the ears of an animal.
Okay, so it's not very often that you find a goat man, of course. It has happened in other states, like I said a moment ago, but I don't think I've heard of at least not very many cryptid creatures wearing clothes. He had a red flannel shirt on. I love that, right?
The beast grinned at the man and slowly walked into the woods. Startled by this sighting, the man jumped back into his truck and locked the doors. Out of desperation, he tried the ignition again, and amazingly, it fired right back up, and the gauge now read, full. He drove home as fast as he could, but claimed to have never seen the creature again. While there are many questions behind this story, it is said that goat men have been spotted elsewhere in the state, although maybe not looking like Pan from the myths.
And I agree, Ben, that does sound like the creature Pan, the god Pan from ancient myth, indeed. Or also the Christians would call a demon. But as I was sitting here listening to the case file, I was also thinking about the ancient Romans and Greeks who definitely said these creatures existed, the centaurs and things like that, creatures with lower halves of hooves and upper halves of man. So I don't know, it's just interesting that these tales go all the way back through time, back to the ancient Romans and Greeks. So maybe they weren't mythos after all. Maybe they were telling us something else. That there are certain creatures that live in this world with us that we don't always see and don't exactly understand, even in 2021, right?
Our next story is quite interesting, and it involves dogmen. Maine has quite a few reports of dogmen, but none are as fascinating as the one described from the Palmyra area.
And again, if you've been following the States series for some time, you'll know that dogman is yet another one we have seen across a number of states.
Eric and Shelley Martin had decided to move into a secluded farmhouse in Maine due to wanting to simplify their lives. Eric was an avid hunter most of his life, and as such he had amassed quite a collection of guns. Shelley wasn't a fan of firearms, so they came to the compromise that they would be kept in the barn under lock and key. After a year of uneventful nights, they started to notice odd things beginning to occur. Eric told his wife that while in the barn, he would frequently catch sight of a ghostly teenage girl that, according to him, looked mean and was dressed in older clothes. One night, while on the porch, the husband and wife saw odd white lights flashing in the forest. Assuming it to be poachers, Eric and his son Sean went out to investigate, but couldn't find anything.
Odd white lights in the forest. That sounds more like a UFO story to me. Ben, you're jumping the gun on the second half of the show, bud.
Later, their daughter Chelsea was walking in the woods with her boyfriend Nathan, along with their 2 hunting dogs, when the animals caught the scent of something and ran off. When they finally caught up with the dogs, they found them circling a large hole in the ground that appeared smooth, like something had dug it intentionally. Feeling uncomfortable about the situation, the pair returned home. Then on Memorial Day weekend, Shelley was making herself coffee for the evening when she noticed that her dogs didn't want to leave their cages. It was at this moment that Eric became uneasy with the situation and ushered his family inside. Hearing a sound coming from outside, they looked out and saw 5 pairs of glowing, greenish-yellow eyes staring back at them from the woods. It quickly became apparent that these beings were a pack of dogman-like beings, with some of them staying low on all fours, while others would walk on their hind legs. They were covered in dark brown fur, had a long muzzle, kangaroo-shaped legs, they had long claws, and pointed ears that rose 3 inches above the head. Eric wanted to try to get the guns, but Shelley feared he wouldn't make it. They knew that they couldn't just sit in the house, so Eric decided to try to get to their vehicle and pull it up close to the porch. The creatures watched him as he slowly walked to the car. As he was about to open the door, one of them started to run at him, but the motion sensor light came on, and it appeared to startle the being or hurt it, since it ran back immediately. Eric took this moment to run back into the house. The family called the police, but it was obvious that they didn't believe them. So after a few attempts to retrieve a gun failed, the group decided to huddle into one of the bedrooms, just hoping for daybreak. They claimed that all the while they could hear the creatures walking around their house, making odd growling noises that appeared to be some form of communication. For some unknown reason, the beings never tried to enter the house, and by daybreak, they were gone. When they checked for signs of the beings, they found many prints that resembled a huge dog with long claws in the grass and dirt. The family moved out of the house shortly afterward.
You know, the more I hear this case file, the more I am reminded of the Hopkinsville Goblin case, where these creatures surrounded the house and seem to have their own language and things like that. This one is a little different. In the Hopkinsville case, they did very much try to get into the house, opposed to these guys that just seem to be and terrifying and terrorizing them. And I would even argue in this case that perhaps what they seen was a group of aliens. Perhaps there are dog-type aliens out there, but you guys know that music means we have to go ahead and take a network break right here. So my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you're listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show, State Mystery of MAINE, exclusively on the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, are you enjoying the Dark Wolf's Den radio show, State of Mystery for Maine? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show will return again tomorrow night, Thursday, October 28th, with a look at a stolen democracy. He's starting a new series he calls the Freedom Flame series. I can't wait to tune in. That'll be tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Starts at our regular time, as all shows do, with the exception of our Common Sense Council shows, which start actually in the 30s. Not in the hour. I'll return Friday night with a look at Quack Factory. Say that 5 times real fast. We're going to look at how they're producing quacks in the world of quack factories today. If it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a cat. Make no mistake about it. That's Friday, October 29th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then we're going to be joined by special guests Saturday, October 30th, which is Saturday night's Nation's Destiny show. It's going to be a very interesting journey down the rabbit hole of the destiny of a nation. I think you're going to find it quite enthralling. Then, of course, Sunday, October 31st, Halloween, with our Ghost to Ghost broadcast, which includes your ghost stories. I'm really excited, and I look forward to spending Halloween together with you. Speaking of which, our virtual costume party, our second annual virtual costume party, is going to take place immediately following the Friday night broadcast. So if you haven't figured out what you're going to do in the backstage for your costume, you got till Friday night about 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to figure it out. It's going to be a lot of fun as the holiday Halloween weekend continues. Can you believe it? Also, as the month of October comes to an end, November is just around the corner, and you know what that means. That means our monthly firsts, the first Tuesday of the month and the first Sunday of the month, 2 regular rituals that occur around here at the Ripon Rabbit Hole, including Tuesday night videos and Beat Eugene. We're going to have more information about that as we continue into the weekend. But we'll return to tonight's State of Mystery with Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Maine on October 27th, 2021. You're listening to the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
Oh, what that aroma can do, brighter day for me and you. The best part of waking up.
The best part of waking up is having a job. And that is exactly what the hardworking men and women at J.M. Smucker Co. who bring you Folgers coffee won't have if they don't get the jab. Hey, Smuckers, consumers are now boycotting your 40 brands. Call 1-888-550-9555 and tell them everyone should have the freedom of choice.
Reestablishing multiverse connection. Connection reestablished and secure.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Interesting little factoid, ladies and gentlemen. I was just looking during the break and check this out. We are actually on episode 127th on October 27th, 1027. So you take out the 0, you've got 127. So funny little interesting synchronicity, and that'll flow on also to tomorrow night's episode, as we'll be on 128 on 1028. Interesting how the number synchronicities just happen to fall in place like that. But we are, of course, if you're just joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the great state of mystery of Maine. And we have heard some of, I gotta say, some of the wildest cryptid stories, guys, that I think we've heard in a long time. You don't get as many out there cryptid stories as we've had in tonight's case files, which I love. I love these unique stories that you don't get to hear all the time. That's one thing that I hope makes this show a little more special than others, as we try to focus on those stories that have fallen through the cracks. But every now and then, we do have to touch on the more mainstream stuff. And of course, UFO hotspots, I noticed a long time ago, have a tendency to be around areas of large bodies of water, like the Great Lakes. Then you got the oceans like Texas and California, and the great state of Maine. And actually that pattern follows when we get into Maine, because Maine is actually a well-known UFO hotspot.
Portland, Maine. In August 2014, a man walking his dog looked up at the night sky over the city. That's when he saw the mystery. A group of white lights, brighter than stars, traveling faster than satellites, were skimming the tree-lined horizon just behind his apartment building. He watched as the orbs abruptly changed formation, pivoted 90 degrees, and streaked away. They were gone in 5 seconds, but his dog continued staring at the sky where the lights vanished for another half-minute. I have never seen anything like this and, until now, have been skeptical of UFO sightings, the man wrote in his report to the National UFO Reporting Center. With official reports stretching back to at least 1946, Maine UFO sightings are nothing new.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, they have been having UFO sightings in Maine even a year before the Roswell incident or the Kenneth Arnold incident, because remember, all of that started in 1947. So these are either a historical rewrite in a Mandela effect of some type, which isn't out of the question. We've seen stranger, let me tell you, or it very well could be that they've been having sightings of UFOs before UFOs were named flying saucers as they are today.
They're not even rare. In the past 40 years, UFO investigators, the federal government, and the Bangor Daily News recorded nearly 1,000 such reports. The latest was last month, and recent data show sightings on a steady rise since 2018, with a noticeable spike during the initial pandemic lockdown.
And that is also not even surprising, because when you start getting really bored and staring at the sky, you start to see things you didn't realize were going on right above your head.
Numbers are expected to climb still higher in 2021. One analyst ranks Maine 4th in the nation in UFO visitations. Whether you believe it or not, the numbers don't lie. Maine is a UFO report hotspot, and it's getting hotter. Maine's earliest unidentified flying object report in the Reporting Center archives dates to the first summer after World War II.
And I can tell you, as a ufologist, I guarantee I have never heard this story, because I can't recall anything I've heard prior to 1947 as far as official UFO reports. So this is going to be very interesting for all of us, right?
A woman and her husband were eating lunch near the shore in South Portland when she had the overwhelming feeling of being watched. The unidentified woman then looked out into the blue, daytime sky over the sea. She saw a hovering, dark oval shape. As she laid eyes on it, it shot straight up and out of sight. I felt at the time, and still do now, that this was a flying saucer, and have never forgotten the incident, she said when finally telling her story in 2008. Over the years, online freedom of information activists at the Black Vault obtained 713 files, containing 3,493 pages of declassified CIA documents surrounding UFO investigations and research.
If you are interested in much deeper research on the UFOs in the Black Vault, that is absolutely true. The FBI have openly classified a large number of UFO files in the last couple of years in what is called the Black Vault. So if you're interested, just type those words in the Google Black Vault or whatever search engine you like to use. I prefer DuckDuckGo myself, but whatever your search engine of choice may be, just type in Black Vault and you'll find a ton of case files if you're interested in reading up more on overall UFO cases.
In 2020, they finished scanning the often badly photocopied sheets, converting them into searchable text. Now, they're on the internet for free download. Contained inside is a 1952 memo to the CIA director detailing a UFO sighting over Loring Air Force Base in Limestone. The sighting helped spark Project Blue Book, the government's third and final in-depth investigation into unexplained aerial phenomena.
And as we know from the report released this year, and the ATIP information that we know about, and the To the Stars Academy, and all of that information there, take your own belief system on it. Some believe it, some don't. I know it is kind of controversial, but we know that those existed unofficially until they admitted to officially existing. So Project Blue Book is the last official program that we know of existing that was researching UFOs.
It lasted until 1970. The Limestone event occurred on the night of October 10, 1952. From 11 p.m. until 3 a.m. weather observers at the base saw a circular orange object with 4 green lights nearby. Their sighting instruments recorded the object at an altitude higher than any known aircraft could fly. Initial explanations indicated airmen probably saw Saturn and its moons. Later, consulting astronomer J. Allen Hynek concluded it was another planet. It would be an outrage to probability theory to consider the object observed was anything other than the time-honored planet Jupiter, Hynek wrote to the CIA in a document released 50 years later. The prosecution rests its case. A Bangor Daily News clip from 1961 tells of a UFO spotted near Chamberlain Lake. credit Troy R. Bennett, BDN, but Hynek went on to become the most highly respected scientific UFO researcher in the country, founding the still-running Center for UFO Studies. In the 1960s and 70s, nighttime mystery sightings were regularly reported in the Bangor Daily News.
And as he said, J. Allen Hynek, who was originally hired by the government to do his best to debunk UFOs and ufology in general, ran into a brick wall and eventually became not only a believer, but one of the most dogmatic voices for the ufology question in a long time, at least in his time. He became one of the most outspoken researchers and started different foundations and all kind of things to research ufology. And this was the guy that originally got on to debunk the whole thing. So as I said, you can go and look at the multitude and variety of UFO sightings in Maine, and apparently it's not hard to find one. You could throw a rock and find a UFO sighting in Maine, a hot spot for sure. And it's also a hot spot, as every state in our union and probably every square inch of our planet, I would argue, is a hot spot for spirit activity.
Mount Hope Cemetery. Mount Hope Cemetery in Bangor was founded in 1836 as one of the first garden cemeteries in the United States. If it looks familiar, that's no surprise. It was featured in the Stephen King movie Pet Sematary.
I love the fact that not only is it creepy enough that it was used as a creepy place in the movie Pet Sematary, which is a creepy movie indeed, but the fact that it's actually got its own ghosts tied to it, that just makes it twice as creepy. Not only is it fictionally creepy, it's really haunted in reality, right? You can't beat that for a Halloween-themed episode, right, guys? Maine, I could not have run upon a better state. What a synchronicity that we have such Halloween-themed pieces all through this episode. And that part was the unplanned part, right? Maine apparently is one of the creepiest states in the Union. Would you guys not agree?
Those brave enough to explore these old stones, especially after dark, report the sound of something sprinting around them, jingling chains, orbs floating.
By the way, over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat, Pinga Spetson says, who was a fellow Aussie narrator just then? I don't honestly know. I don't remember what channel it came off of, but I know it wasn't his original channel. It was somebody who had put up his work. Deranged Lunatic, hey, great to see you, my friend. Says, hey, Dark Wolf's Den Show. Great to have you here with us, bud.
Throughout the trees, and shadowy apparitions that stalk any who cross their paths. These shadow people have even been known to pose for the occasional photo. There are many speculations as to who or what is causing these occurrences.
With the history of this cemetery, there is a number of possible culprits.
From a Native American burial ground that was disturbed when the graveyard was built, to the spirits of more famous residents such as notorious robber and murderer Alfred James Brady, or 15th Vice President Hannibal Hamlin, both who have been known to make spectral appearances from time to time.
I don't know about you guys, but I watched Poltergeist. Native American spirits that are upset are the last things that I want to be dealing with. But let's see what other kind of creepy, ghostly things we have in the state of Maine.
The White Lady of Route 11.
Of course, no good ghostly Halloween episode would be complete without a good story about the lady in white.
The White Lady of Route 11 has grown in infamy over the years and has also been called the White Lady of Millinocket and the White Lady of Brownsville Road. Though most commonly seen in these locations, especially near the bridge, she has also been sighted far away on connected roads and throughout the forests. As local legend has it, a bride and groom returning from their honeymoon lost control of their car and swerved off the road. The groom told the bride to stay put while he went for help. When he returned with the police, she was nowhere to be found. Many have speculated on the cause of her disappearance, but we may never know the truth.
However, though she disappeared, she would not be gone for good.
Now, on foggy, lightless nights, especially if there's a layer of frost on the ground, the White Lady has been known to travel the edges of the road with a lost and frightened look on her face. Multiple witnesses have pulled over and tried to help her. Some have even had her get in the back seat only to have her vanish into thin air, leaving nothing behind but a chill.
Could you imagine picking up a hitchhiker, a lady in all white, and by the time you get to where you're going, they literally vanish, not get out of the car, literally disappear? That would be one of the strangest incidents I think I could ever experience. How about you guys?
The Olsen house.
Now, that's interesting. I have a friend, a really good friend with that last name. I'm going to have to ask them if they're related to any of the Olsens in Maine, right?
The Olsen house in Cushing was built in the mid-1700s by Captain Samuel Hawthorne II. It was refurbished into almost an entirely different home in 1871, and it's rumored the remodel awoke something in the old foundation. Throughout the years, many have reported lights turning on and off by themselves, strange cold spots throughout the hall, and the smell of old-timey perfume.
And we know from other stories that we've heard, other case files on hauntings, that a lot of times the changing of something in the environment, especially if it was something very closely connected to the spirit that would have been in the home prior, does tend to make the spirits restless for whatever reason. They don't like change that much.
Several have even reported seeing a ghostly glow through the windows while walking by at night, almost like that of a lantern being carried throughout the halls by invisible hands.
Well, I would argue that perhaps it's not the lantern that's being seen, but just the ghost light energy of whatever is manifesting there.
Inspiring the work of Andrew Wyeth, who painted Christina's World and several other works surrounding the house, which sequentially inspired the design of the Gillespie house from Konami's Silent Hill series, a game about a condemned town also located somewhere in Maine.
And I have played that game series, and that is an incredibly creepy game series. If you've ever played Silent Hill, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I played iteration like 2 or 3. I don't remember which one it was on when I played it, but definitely a incredibly creepy game. And the fact that it's based in Maine, I'm starting to see why all these spooky, creepy things, especially, like I said in the first opening of the show, Stephen King, for instance, putting all his creepy stuff in Maine. Perhaps that's why. Perhaps they already knew more than we did and knew how haunted and creepy it is actually. But we don't have time to really get into any more case files tonight, so I'm wondering, what do you guys think? The state of Maine, I gotta tell you, I haven't seen such creepiness in a long time, but do you think perhaps the state of Maine is definitely something that deserves to be on the list as a state of mystery, one of the higher paranormal state of mysteries, or do you think we're barking up the wrong tree? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense, and
you be the judge.
That's right, Bubby. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Wednesday, October the 27th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right, I, myself, Dark Wolf, will be back tomorrow, October 28th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as we start a new series here on the network. Small programming note, we are going to be dropping our paranormal down to 1 day a week. We will continue to carry on our State of Mystery paranormal series on Wednesday night. Then on Thursday, we will be discussing rights, liberties, and freedoms in general. A Freedom Flame series, as we have been focusing more and more on different city council and school meetings in Ripon, Wisconsin, and just like your little town and big town, wherever you live, what we're seeing here and focusing on here is no different than is going on all across this country. And we will be, of course, the home of the Freedom Flame, the Ripon, Wisconsin, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We will be carrying on and starting a Freedom Flame series that will start tomorrow with episode 1, A Stolen Democracy. Conspiracy on Thursday, October 28th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. I guarantee this is a series you do not want to miss, and I would dare say you cannot afford to want to miss. Then on Friday, October 29th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, our network partner and good friend AJ the Ripon Rabbit will be back with an all-new episode of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. On Friday, he's going to be discussing the quack factory that has become our modern society. The quack factory is a rabbit hole that definitely goes deep and full of quackers. And he'll be discussing many quacky things on Friday, October 29th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. I can't wait to see what that's about. And then on Saturday, October 30th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, he'll take back to the airwaves again to be discussing Nation's Destiny. That's right. The Ripon Rabbit Hole live show will be discussing the destiny of our nation and others, I'm sure, around the world, and how these destinies are influenced by different things. Definitely a show you do not want to miss about our nation's destiny on Saturday, October 30th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then on Sunday, October 31st, Halloween. AJ the Ripon Rabbit puts on the Halloween party here on the Ripon Rabbit Hole this year, as he has the annual Halloween episode on October 31st, and I'm very excited to see if he was able to pull together the costume that he was trying to pull together a couple weeks ago. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Crazy Costumes episode. If you did miss that episode, by the way, you can catch that over on the RiponRabbitHole.com in the on-demand section. But that will close out the weekend here on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network with a holiday episode that I am very excited for. And like I said, if you have missed any episode that either myself or Mr. AJ the Ripon Rabbit has done, make sure that you hop on over to the RiponRabbitHole.com. That is RiponRabbitHole.com. Over there, you're going to have to sign up for the Backstage Pass, which is absolutely free. We do not sell, trade, give away, or any form of releasing your information. And we do send you an email once a week, every week on Wednesday, with the explanations of all the Dark Wolf's Den shows, the Ripon Rabbit Holes we will be discussing all weekend long here on the network. That's right. And also, while you're on the Ripon Rabbit Hole, once you've signed up for that VIP Backstage Pass, as you have already seen if you've been there, the front page, we always have featured news and up-to-date articles. By the way, real quick, tomorrow we should be doing another Rally for Freedom from Wisconsin and hopefully from Ohio too. We will have to see what's going on. Make sure you check back on the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show scheduled for updates all day long. That's right. And like I said, there is a variety of other fun things like the Down the Rabbit Hole section. So if you've got information that you would like to share with people, and you know that it's going to be censored on those other fake social media networks, you know which ones I'm talking about, Facebook, things like that, then definitely come on over and drop the real information down the rabbit hole, and we won't censor or get rid of valid truths. We will actually welcome them openly. That's right. I just recently made a couple posts over there myself about the International Mandela Effect conference show that we had earlier today with Mr. Tom Campbell. But ladies and gentlemen, with that said, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and I'm about to go over to the 24/7 Backstage Lounge at the RiponRabbitHole.com, and I hope to see you there. On behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Wald House, everyone involved with Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, as well as Tom Bayless for this amazing music right here. Hit it, Tom. If you're you're looking for a custom soundtrack for your next project, check out Red Shed Studios. Links in the description. On behalf of all these folks, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you've been listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show, exclusively on Ripon, Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Say it with me, guys. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown.
Let's go, Brandon.
I'll never find you here.
FJB.
'Cause no one's ever
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the grass is green, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a
FJB. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis.
FJB.
What a sinner. Is it in her?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Say it with me, folks. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
Just illusion, manifestation, or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
That's right, boycott Smuckers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. FJB. Let's go, Brandon. FJB. Appreciate having every last one of you guys here. You are absolute champions. Every last one of you. Let's go, Brandon. Happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Halloween from the Dark Wolf's Den Show. We'll see you tomorrow night for the Freedom Flame series. Freedom Flame series, episode 1. Till then, good night, everybody.